make and how much. So at least within the movie industry, you get some sort of idea of like, here's how much it made at the box office. Here's how much it costs to produce. Now on the back end movie accounting, for some reason, like I think Lord of the Rings still has yet to turn a profit. So like, on the back end, you have these franchises that make like multi-billions of dollars, and then people who are tied to profit centers are like, I don't know, I'm not getting that check. So like things get really weird, but at least on the front end, we've agreed to some loose form of metrics, but that we can gauge like how many people are going to see this thing. And so I just don't have any idea of what a indie single player first party title is supposed to do and what it did do. So when I see people using these as examples of why a platform is failing or why a platform is successful, and sometimes using the same examples to argue against each other, it's like, well, one of you has to be wrong. There's so little data in these, so I just don't know what it is. And if Game Pass is hurting this title, is Game Pass hurting all titles? Because if I have 10 single player titles from a genre inside of Game Pass, and your title releases and it's not in Game Pass, I wasn't going to buy those because I have access to Game Pass. I'm also probably not going to buy yours because I haven't beaten those yet.
Right.
So when I have Game Pass, like the idea that Game Pass is hurting those title sales, maybe, but it's probably also just hurting title sales across the entire genre, because anybody who has Game Pass, like once my brother was buying games regularly, once he moved to Game Pass, a title has to be really big for him to hit purchase.
Right.
My brother plays single player games almost exclusively, and so that's why I think of him in this example. And he literally just plays Game Pass. Game Pass. And the only time he leaves Game Pass is if it's something really big. So he was like super excited for Cyberpunk. But that's it. He very, very rarely leaves the Game Pass ecosystem, which means that any game that doesn't go into Game Pass may not get him as a user. And I don't think he's alone in that space. I don't know how many total subscribers they have to Game Pass and how those break down within what the types of games they consume.
Yeah.
But there was a metric that said Game Pass people, like, they play more games. They play more games per month. They play more unique titles. Those metrics were released. And when those were released, what was odd is at the time, it also said that it increased the number of games they purchased.
Yes.
Which was super interesting and totally the opposite of what I thought would happen. I thought people would be like me, where now that I have unlimited access to the buffet, why the hell would I buy anything? Because that's how I treated Game Pass. I stopped buying a lot of games, but that's not been the typical. They have said that the average user increases the number of money they spend, the total number of monies that are gone from their bank account annually spent on games. And yes, Game Pass gets a big piece of that, but there are more total titles being purchased because of the steep discounts. And when those games come out of Game Pass, which is not going to affect first-party titles, but when third-party titles come out of Game Pass, right before they come out of Game Pass, they have this massive discount tied to them. So people that aren't done with those games are like, well, I'll buy it at 60%.
I'm going to hold on to that. Yeah. I like that. I tried that out. It ends up being like I get to try these games out. If I like them, I get to pay for them, because that's actually like Insomnia. Welcome to the show. First time over there chatting on Twitch. So welcome in. Says, it's how I feel about Ghostwire Tokyo on Game Pass. I'd rather buy it elsewhere. Yes, I want to play it, but I really don't want to deal with other sub-based services for games. I just want to enjoy it and not lose games for licensing purposes. And the thing is with that, especially Ghostwire, you don't. It's a first-party game, so you don't lose access, but you can still purchase it. I think one of the things I hear from a lot of people is that Game Pass still has a lot of work to do on educating people on its platform. It does not remove the ability to purchase the games. It just removes your ability to need to buy them. And what we're also going to see is they're still going to try to monetize you many other ways, right? With like Redfall that comes out, there's other versions that you can actually pay money to upgrade your free version of the game, that's on Game Pass. And you don't have to like buy the game and buy the upgrade. You can just just bypass that and just pay for this. So they're going to try and monetize every which way that's possible. So I don't ever worry about that, but I do hear that. A lot of people are like, oh, but I want to purchase the game. Well, go out and purchase it. And if you have Game Pass, you get it at the discount. Now,
it's like Humble Bundle,
right?
But you're also having access to it while it's in the library. So you can try it for as many hours as you want. And then you have a Humble Bundle price available to you should you want to purchase it. And they warn you before games get pulled off the service. So they don't just get shadow pulled. You get a warning because that's something they can make money on. And they only put the base version in there. So like, something like the ESO subscription. ESO is now first party. But the ESO subscription is not included in Game Pass because Microsoft still wants to make money on the ZeniMax properties. And so anywhere they can sell additional DLC, additional microtransactions, additional subscriptions, anything like that, they're still absolutely going to, because that's just another revenue source. But ideally, they've made it easy where, like, one of the first things I do if I just want to play a random game on a Saturday, I'm like, like my wife's about to take a big long trip with a friend, and so they're gone for like a week. And so if I don't have anything going on that week, what I might do is I might go out to Gamepass and I might just scroll for a bit, just like I would on Netflix, pick a game, download it, and beat it before she ever gets home, because I'm gonna have a lot more free time on my hands. And so that could be something I want to do, and Gamepass is a great way to do that. And if right before she gets home, I'm like, you know what, I want to spend a lot more time with this game, or I want to play through it in another way, I might go buy DLC at a discount. Or if it's not a first party game, I might be like, well, I hope they never pull this, and I'll go buy it at a steep discount. So that I have access to it even when it's removed from the library.
Gamers will also buy games that they like and support. One of the things that when it comes down to it, if you make a good game, gamers are more than willing to also toss money at that. I've bought games and I'm like, yeah, you know what? Even if I decide to unsub, I always want to own this. This is my game. And I don't think I represent the vast majority, but I do know that that's a mindset that we see happen. We see that happen within MMOs. And one of the things that I want to bring up before I talk about Pride's Izzy's comment here, because this is really important, is that I also view Game Pass actually as an MMO. Like when you start to think about what it offers, when you think and you compare to just an MMO, like Game Pass is competing against Final Fantasy 14. It is competing against World of Warcraft. It will be interesting to see what happens if World of Warcraft is brought in and if they do some kind of Game Pass connection with it. But when it comes down to it, like the real competition in all of this is your time. Like everything here is not just for your money, but it's really also trying to grab in your time and open that up for you in that regards. Now, Hazy writes, Game Pass also is underperforming by Microsoft standards. Found a quote that Xbox Game Pass grew 28% in 2022, short of the 73% goal. The average Game Pass annual subscriber growth for the last 3 years was at 50%. And yes, it is growing, and she's pointing that out as well.
Annual subscriber growth at 50%. Can you imagine if you had a friend come and tell you that, like, for the last 4 years, they've been getting 15% raises every year at work? Every year at work, and this year they only got a 5% raise, and so they were like, I don't know, I just feel like this year really underperformed. I feel like I'm losing money. I feel like this sucks so bad. That friend can screw off. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like, you're still buying lunch. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not paying for your lunch. Like, it's just so I understand that everybody wants 73% growth year over year. How the hell is that sustainable?
The only way they get it is actually releasing games. 2022 was all of their big games that were supposed to come out in 2022 all have been pushed to 2023. And at the end of the day, delays, like, especially if you take the time to really make it a good game, I'm all for, right? Like, it sucks in the short term, but 2022 is like the worst year for like Microsoft's first party, even with the Blizzard Activision, even with some of these things. And like, obviously we're still waiting to see them close on Activision Blizzard, which will then open up even more games that they can bring in first party that have that continual value added. One of the things that to bring this back to Netflix, and one of the reasons why I think Netflix is struggling, is when it comes down to it, with them getting out of this actually finishing series and easily dropping and abandoning for like a series, means that they have this, they're building a library that is incomplete, that doesn't necessarily have that value. So as a subscriber who takes breaks and comes back, you end up having this idea that it's like, oh, I came back into this and now there's like, they never finished that series. So now I'm less willing to actually invest in their new series, which means their new series are failing. Bringing this all right back to Game Pass is like, the nice thing about them with first party is like, that is an ever growing library of games that you have access to. And so it ends up becoming at some point like 500 games are always here, like first party games are always here. And I do see the value, and the question ends up being, I do see it hurting other things out there, like in competition. That's one of the reasons why I don't think we're seeing Square Enix games on Xbox, because they know that they can sell it to Sony. They know that Sony's more than willing to write that check for that timed exclusive, and they know that they're going to pick up additional sales on the back end after they've already cashed those checks and be able to cash more checks from Game Pass. And so it's an interesting strategy to see between Sony and Microsoft. Sony more than willing to happily write exclusivity checks. Everybody's willing to cash those. And so more like it does, I wonder if propose a problem for Xbox, especially as it relates to Japan, if Sony's more than willing to continue to lock down certain studios and keep them off of the platform for any number of period of time without actually truly going in and buying and acquiring that company. What do you think?
I think all of these numbers are so outlandish, like 73% growth. Their first 2 years or whatever, I could pick up Xbox Game Pass for $1. $1. And at one point it was $1 and it would convert all remaining time on my Xbox Gold subscription into Game Pass, which meant for $1, if I had a year of Xbox Game Pass of Xbox Live time left, I would get the whole year for $1. So the fact that it's even still growing and is not dropping as that dollar falls off is wonderful. It's wonderful. The fact that it went up by 28% when the price went up by like a ridiculous amount. I paid $1 for my first year of Game Pass. Game Pass is, I think Xbox Live Gold was $5 a month and Game Pass, I believe, $15. So I pay 120 times the amount annually to keep Game Pass. And so like the fact that 120x the price did not scare me off and allowed them to pick up more users is amazing. What a failure that when you dialed your price up by 120x, you only went up by 28%. Like, I don't know who's
without releasing any big games that would drive people to go and say, hey, you know what, I'll go and sub for $1 or whatever.
Like Forza Horizon is long in the past. Like when you look at all these different first parties, like Starfield, I still don't even entirely know what Starfield is. Like when you look at everything going on with Microsoft's first parties, it is amazing Game Pass has grown. Yeah, it is amazing. It has grown.
It boggles my mind that it has grown, because it's like, well, why? Like, so, why would I pay for that service when
they release games? Yeah. But not all the time. It's not like they have a first party coming out every month.
That's what their goal is. That's what Phil Spencer's goal is, to have these games dropping on Game Pass every month. And I think he needs Activision Blizzard to get there. I think he needs a lot more studios. And the question ends up being, from a profit perspective, like it's Microsoft. It's the same thing with Amazon. I don't care if they want to burn money. Like, I just don't. They have Google, like, that's where Google in and of itself was. Phil Spencer's considered them a threat. Like
73.
Yeah. So it's absolutely wild to see, and we're gonna have to keep following the story. But to kind of bring it all back full circle, like, it is just this matter of faith, like this, like whatever your team is, like that's what the argument last week was, based off of, and I saw somebody quoted like, yeah, it's all trust me, bro. Whether you want to accept Aaron Greenberg or whether you want to accept Grubb, like it's all just in this like, hey, trust me, bro. Like, we're perfectly happy. Cool. All right, we're sales didn't meet expectations. I'm not surprised by that. Like, you're talking about a game that entered into games as a service. Did it generate hype? Did it generate conversation? That's actually kind of, I think, a big factor a lot of people are missing. But Chris, we've reached the end of our show. I'm gonna go help Julie with the as we prep to have the new baby. Be sure to like and subscribe and share and all the great stuff. I appreciate all you guys so much. We also new Prime sub from our new chatter. Thank you so much, Insomnia. Insomnia. I can't read. I suck at words. So welcome in. Enjoy your ad-free viewing. If you have your Discord linked up to your Twitch or your YouTube, members and subscribers over on Twitch, like, you have a special role. It all gets linked up. You get a nice cool little name badge. You get all this cool stuff in the Discord as well. So, like, trying to always have these great little perks for you guys, for y'all's support. It does mean so much to us, so we appreciate you guys. Chris, you got any final thoughts before we wrap up today's live show?
No, I'm talking about the Moogle Tombstone event today, so I'm gonna get back to that. Trying to edit a post to give everybody the summary they need to do. We are counting down the I believe 29 days until patch 6.4 in Final Fantasy 14. So that's enough about this. I'm gonna get back to I'm showing that video off live. We're chatting today. We've been all over it. We've talked about In-N-Out and burritos, and we have talked about all sorts of stuff today. So enjoying our time over here on Twitch.
All right, thanks guys. I'm gonna hit the end broadcast.